Why is there people in there that are not? Hi, everybody. So I'm letting you guys in this meeting, but the correct one is the one on the clerk's page website, which is the one that I emailed to everybody. So this is not the right one. So we're gonna join the one in the placeholder.
Okay. I sent the one
Yeah.
to someone else
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
From
Okay.
the
Yeah.
link.
There's a couple of
Yeah.
people in this one.
So
I just accepted the one that was sent to me.
okay. So it's in the placeholder. Okay. Could you add Catherine Shields to the placeholder? Do you have her email?
I might. I'm gonna
I
go
can-
back and tell Andy because everybody seems to be joining this past one. Like there's a lot of people already joining this one.
Yeah, because it's on the agenda.
Is this the one on
Right?
the agenda? I
Yeah.
think this is the one that was on the past one, not on the current one.
This is what was sent to me, so I just, and it's on my calendar. Whatever one you hit yes to.
Is this Robin?
No.
Shirley Mata.
Shirley.
I I'm gonna.
Hey Laura, can you get Andy to switch over if you're on there? Everybody's joining this one.
Will do.
Please, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just looking here to see if we have quorum. Six.
So we do.
6 is quorum.
Yeah.
So I know Tom was going to join a little late and Michael is probably coming, but he's a little under the weather. So anyway, we have 6, so we have quorum. So in the interest of time, I'll go ahead and kick us off. So good afternoon and welcome everyone to the September meeting of the Kansas City Climate Protection Steering Committee. I'm Committee Chair Robin Ganal, and I'll now call the meeting to order. Let's give everybody another minute or so, or maybe we could go ahead and do the roll, Marlene, and just see who's here so far.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
I have Robin.
Here.
Michael. Thomas. Angela. Beth,
Here.
Ellen,
Here.
Bill,
Here.
Bridget,
Here.
Kristen,
Here.
Bo, I think we can't hear
I
you,
was-
but we
yeah.
see you. And Shirley.
Here.
Awesome.
Thanks, Marlene. All right. Well, before we get started with our agenda today, which is pretty full, I just want, this is our first meeting since City Council passed the climate plan. And so I just wanted to take a moment and let us celebrate that huge accomplishment and acknowledge all the hard work that was done by so many over the past 2+ years to develop a plan that, when implemented, will really ensure that Kansas City is doing its part to address this global crisis and also do so in a way that addresses historic and ongoing inequities in our city. So I just want to personally thank Andy and Laura, who spent a large portion of their time on this plan, and also recognize others who worked closely on this, including Justice and Jelly, Stephanie Smith, the Brendel Group, all of my fellow committee members who volunteered countless hours over the last year, and so many community members who showed up and testified and pushed for a strong, equitable plan. And I also want to just thank the City Council for passing the plan 11-1 with no weakening amendments. This is just such a huge achievement and one that I think will be a great legacy for Kansas City. And we're honored to be joined this afternoon by Councilwoman Catherine Shields, who was our first official sponsor of the plan, and who also, by becoming the first sponsor, inspired more council members, ultimately 6 in total, to become sponsors of the plan. So Councilwoman Shields, thank you for being here today, and thank you for your support. The floor is yours if you'd like to say a few words here as we start the meeting.
Thank you. The only thing I want to say is to really reiterate what Robin has said. We were able to have that successful vote at the council because of all the work that you all on the commission and the allies that you brought to this subject matter, the work that you all have done over the last 2 or 3 years. And so all I want to say is thank you very much. And any way I can help now or in the future, let me know. But primarily, just keep up the wonderful grassroots effective work that you are all doing, because the city and frankly the world needs you. And we are beginning to reap the benefits for the hard work from the hard work that you all have done. So just thank you very much. This wouldn't have happened without all of you working together.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. We really appreciate it and appreciate you joining us today. And you're welcome to stay as long as you like, but we understand if you can't. So thank you. Before we move on, I just want to give anyone else on the steering committee who'd like to say anything about the climate plan passing, the opportunity to do so before we start into our agenda. And you can just take yourself off mute.
I typed it in the chat, but I want to give a special thanks to Robin and Michael as well for, the role that you both played during this process, your leadership on the committee, and, all of the hard work that the two of you especially did in bringing this plan forward. So that's the only thing that I have to add.
Thanks, Beth.
And this is Kristen. I'm sorry I'm in the car, but I also wanted to echo the thanks to Andy and Laura, who worked many, many hours on this, and also to the leadership of the committee. Thank you guys so much. And Catherine Shields, thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Anyone else? Andy or Laura, do you want to say anything before we go on? We're going to get into
sure.
next steps in a
Yeah, so just before we get to next steps, I would echo, sitting in our position from city staff, this was a daunting task when we started this, not knowing where to begin, and, finally bringing on a consultant, getting the funding from council, and then engaging with the community, through COVID. I mean, what a task that was, right? Whether we did virtual, in person, our justice workers did a great job of trying to have those one-on-one conversations. But at the end of the day, we all saw how it went down in the last week or so. What I found encouraging was the support we had from the community. You showed up in council chambers, and when you're sitting up there in front of council and you're presenting this plan, it was encouraging to see the support we had from the community behind this plan. So I was very much encouraged by that, and it does kind of give me confidence and excitement in moving forward on the implementation part, which is, for myself, and I'm sure I can speak for Laura, that's where we've been ready to get started, get going. That's where we want to put our efforts into this, move beyond planning and get something done. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to at least say that.
And I see Laura has just said ditto to what Andy said, but all right. Well, thanks, Andy, for that. Before we go on, I also just wanted to give a quick plug to Solarize KC, since there's a deadline coming up for that next month, I believe, right, Andy, to register if you're interested in solar. So
if you're at all interested in solar, get signed up on the website by the end of October, just to get your free assessment for your property. If you're interested in solar at all, they'll look at your house, give you an assessment of the costs and whether it's feasible for your property. That at least gets your foot in the door, but you're under no obligation to contract. That deadline is the end of the calendar year, end of December. But if you at least want to see if what the cost might be, please go ahead and sign up before the end of October.
Can I ask a question on that?
Of course.
I actually live in a condominium. Are they willing to come to a condominium? Because we've had just general conversations about trying to do solar, but haven't gone beyond that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would have the condominium association reach out to me. It would be fine directly, and we can set up a meeting to have the conversation about how we might be able to proceed with solar for that type of an arrangement. This project was available to not just residents in terms of homeowners, but also commercial entities and nonprofits.
Okay.
And that's anybody in the metropolitan area, not just Kansas City.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So yeah, just in case no one or someone doesn't know, through the end of October, Kansas City's running a program to essentially buy solar in bulk, right, Andy?
Yep, it's a bulk purchase program.
Yeah,
And
so
we've already hit the lowest price tier because of the participation of the residents in the metropolitan area. So we are at the lowest possible pricing available, and top of the 30% tax credit that's being offered from the federal government. So it's a really great time. The lesson, and actually I should get a quick plug in. Also, we're doing a workshop tomorrow night. Let me double check, Wednesday night, on a financing for solar. So if you have any questions about how you might be able to finance the project, we'll have our installer kind of talk through various financing options. So if you go to solarizeKansasCity.com, go to that website, and you can sign up for the workshop. It's 6:30, I believe it is. Let me just double check. Yeah, 6:30 Wednesday night, and it'll be virtual.
Thanks, Andy. That's great. I can't wait to hear how many people in total sign up for solar because of this program. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's go on to our agenda then. The first item is to approve the minutes from August 15th. Is there any discussion before we do that? Or anyone have any corrections? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Beth, motion to approve.
This is Bill, second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I,
Oh. Okay, motion passes, minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda is to talk about next steps now that the Climate Protection and Resiliency Plan has passed. I think I'd like to hand it over to Andy first. That's all right with you, Andy?
Okay.
And you can help us understand what now.
Okay, so, and I'll take a cut at this, and certainly we want to hear the thoughts of the steering committee here as well, as we look to the steering committee's advisory in nature. But I've kind of organized kind of next steps in three different areas here. First being more administrative tasks that we're looking at doing. Then the second piece being more what are implementation projects, things that are ongoing at this point, or at least this fiscal year, and then what should we be looking at for next fiscal year. And you know, you were all integral in putting the plan together. And I know if you look in the plan, there was some prioritization for this fiscal year as well as next. And we certainly looked at that in terms of how we were going to organize ourselves here. So let me start off first being the administrative tasks. Of course, you know, finalizing the plan. Laura's been doing a great job working with Brendel, trying to get all the final comments, final edits, all of that packaged up in such a way that we can get it posted on the website, bring it up to the playbook that will still be operational for a few months. But, you know, just all those things so that we can make this much more accessible to the community. So things such as posting the documents, we would like to have a dashboard. We've talked about this. How do we track the implementation of the plan? This was kind of a criticism, I think, of the 2008 plan, is that we were never quite tracking all of the strategies and actions in that plan. So in this go around, we want to be better. We want to be transparent. So, you know, I've already, along with Laura, been looking at various online platforms, dashboards that do this kind of work for you. Gives you the ability to track actions. It gives you the ability to model, or, you know, for greenhouse gas emission reductions, things of that nature. So we've got money right now, of course, that is available to us. As many of you know, we're able to capture some of those dollars from Renewable Direct into our current budget. So we're looking to use some of those dollars. So, you know, putting that towards an online dashboard of some type so that the community can kind of see where we're doing, you know, what we're doing, how we're doing on implementing the plan. So, you know, we're going to be looking at those particular vendor options and probably putting an RFP out for that. There's been a lot of conversation about dollars coming down from the federal government, whether it's through the IRA or infrastructure bill or the farm bill. And trust me, you guys have been sending us stuff. We see it. We're getting it from many different sources. And I know we'll have an agenda item later up on upcoming grant opportunities. But we've already been kind of internally, in terms of the city, looking at how can the city maximize its opportunity to capture those grant dollars, federal funding, whatever. So A couple of things have gone on in that regard. The city now has a contract in place for grant writers so that we have some professional staff that can help us go after those grant opportunities and actually have active eyes on those opportunities and would notify me if they see something that fits our mission. So we have 2 under contract that is now in place to help us with that. And we've got some staff that we're aligning with here in the city to help administer grants. So, us being technical experts, working on the plan and other sustainability initiatives, it really, to administer grants, it's a lot of work for staff to do. So we're looking for internal staff elsewhere that can help us administer the grants. So those conversations are going in-house as well as throughout all the departments. They're all sort of discussing what projects can we work on together. How do we align? Second? Yeah, I think I got that. So, how do we align for the grant opportunities? So that's part of it, and we might be able to cover more of that later on. But those conversations have already started, so that's what we're doing as well. Outreach. So Brendel is going to be working to provide us an outreach plan, education outreach plan. We have yet to have our final project meeting with them, kind of a download, debriefing, and that'll be something that we will be doing in terms of city staff with Brendel to just get those engagement tools in our hands so that that becomes available as well. So what does that translate in terms of, when we as the city get invitations to come speak about the plan. So we want to be able to put together a slide deck that we can use that kind of focuses on specific messages about the goals of the city being climate neutral, how the city hopes to get there. But we want this to be also something available to the steering committee to use in your travels if you get requests to pull whatever slides might be appropriate for whatever topics you might be wanting to address. So focusing on getting that slide deck put together is first and foremost as well. Not sure if I mentioned the hiring, the positions that we've got here. So we've got 2 vacant positions that we're looking to hire. So that's part of what's going on right now as well. We'll be setting up interviews here shortly for the 2 vacant positions we've got. So I know Laura is desperately wanting to get those filled. It has been challenging, particularly since Jerry retired after we lost that position. It's been a long road to try to get to a point where we can get that filled. So looking forward to get some new folks on board to help us with that. So that's just quick on the administrative side of things. So there's a lot of balls in the air on that. We're already doing things like you mentioned, Robin. Solarize Kansas City is already well underway. We're going to be rolling out a Share the Sun here shortly, which is the low income family component of the Solarize program. So how do we bring solar to low income families where it's subsidized and help them with their energy burden issues? So we'll hopefully be launching that here shortly. We've got some funding again from the Renewable Direct program that we're hoping to seed that part of the program and hopefully encourage others to donate and get some of our local funders to kind of help put some dollars into that program so that we can bring it to as many families as we can. We are working in concert with Jerusalem Farm and Westside Housing to kind of capitalize on the work that they've done on weatherization, maybe new roofs and things of that nature, so that we can bring solar without any really additional costs to bring the house up to where it needs to be to get solar. So we got the solar program going on. Of course, everybody knows the energy code is still on the table. And so we're working behind the scenes to, again, try to keep that momentum going. There's a strong reason to move forward with energy code because there's a lot of federal dollars on the table contingent upon us getting 2021 code. So we need to kind of get that message across. that those federal dollars will not be available if the city doesn't adopt the 2021 code. So we've got that going on. We're also hoping this fiscal year to get started an electrification grant program, or a kind of a maybe a buy down program where, whether it's homeowners that want to electrify lawnmowers or leaf blowers, or any other types of equipment like that. I think we have some dollars available where we can kind of do like a rebate program for something like that. So that's something I think we can get started this fiscal year. So we want to get started on the Environmental Justice Advisory Board. That was in the recommendation in the plan. So we need to have some conversations with the steering committee about how do we move forward with getting that set up. So the Midwest Building Decarbonization is also something that we signed up for. We need to kind of move forward with what that looks like. So nuisance code, a lot of you folks know we've been working on the nuisance code on weeds, native grasses, or native plantings. That group has already started working on updating our nuisance codes in that regard, and it kind of had to take a bit of a hiatus to finish the climate plan, but we got to come back around to that, as well as addressing the tree preservation issue here in Kansas City. So what does that look like in terms of an ordinance? So that's just kind of in a nutshell what's going on in terms of current projects. And then next steps in terms of next fiscal year, we've got a budget requests that are going in now. We've been asked for putting that in before the end of this month. So for us, I'm going to tell you first and foremost to be some positions. As you know, we're not a very large office. There's 8 of us here currently, and to be able to take on this plan, and not that the whole plan falls on the city, because we all know that there is some community, definitely some things that we're looking from the community to take the lead on. But I think what we're hoping to get is some entry-level positions for our office around natural systems, as well as around buildings and energy. We feel that would help support the work that we're doing and add to the expertise of what our office needs. So other than that, looking at some other possible programs for the next fiscal year, but I think I threw a lot out at you for now. Just kind of trying to digest a little bit of what the plan has in its short-term implementation strategy, based upon feedback I have from the city manager, and just try to distill it to somewhat of a game plan going forward. So with that, I'll just kind of turn it back to the steering committee. Happy to hear your thoughts and entertain any questions or concerns you might have.
Thanks so much, Andy, for all that great information and update. And I'll just, welcome any committee members to ask any questions or offer any suggestions they have.
Could I say something? I wasn't aware, and I don't think any of my colleagues are aware, that the adoption of the 2021 code is linked to getting federal funds. And that is a message that we need to get out. If there's specific federal grant language about that, we need to get that out to all of my colleagues so they can be aware of that.
Yep.
And because you got the home builders. J.E. Dunn came in, I think, at the last meeting to whine about the updated code. So there's a lot of pushback on adopting that. But I think the key is that there's all these federal dollars coming down, and we aren't going to get them if we don't adopt that code. I think that's a message that my colleagues can understand, and it will resonate with them. So I highly encourage, I don't know what's the best way to get that information out. Andy, maybe you ought to do an and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe we ought to do some kind of business session where you talk about the federal dollars coming down, but what the city needs to do to be in a position to maximize those dollars. And obviously doing the climate plan is the first thing, but then if we can talk about these other things, that might be beneficial. I'll give that some more thought, but that's kind of what occurs to me off the top of my head. But that's important news that my colleagues don't have yet. Or if
absolutely.
if we had it, none of us saw it.
No, and this is, I'll be honest with you, I just kind of came across it last week in conversations with the coalition of, the local coalition of folks, Sierra Club, U.S. Green Building Council, and those folks. And as we were discussing through this, looking at the opportunity to get these dollars through the Department of Energy, there was language in there that said, this is all contingent upon the 2021 code. So, and I've already talked to the state because they're going to be the pass-through for those grant dollars from the federal government. And, they're looking at October, November before they can tell us what the specifics will be. But pretty much it sounds like that 21 code is integral to it. So, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So we'll work, I guess, together, Andy, to make sure Councilwoman Shields and the rest of council, or we know what the next step is.
Yeah, no, and because usually that coalition's been kind of coordinating through Councilman Boo on that. So, and I'm not sure if that.
And that's good. It doesn't have to be through me. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I think that's vital information.
No, absolutely. And I think we've all agreed to that.
Hopefully will carry us over because I haven't, frankly, I haven't been on a lot of conversations, but the conversations I've had have not been very positive towards passing that.
Okay.
And so we definitely need to put a big push on, and again, I think that information is critical.
Absolutely.
And maybe, Andrew, if you have, I don't know if the city manager's aware of that, you might start with him and maybe a meeting with he and the mayor to make sure they're aware of that.
Sure. Yeah, there's broad brushstrokes about what that money can be used for. And I know we were originally thinking, I mean, it looks like it covers training for our codes officials on the new code. It's, it's workforce development. So there's definitely some broad brushstrokes we know that money can be used for.
But the critical point is we aren't going to get it if we don't pass this code. And so then that becomes, with workforce training, that should become important both to council people that are union supporters, as well as minority council people who become very concerned about job training for our minority, our constituents of color. So I'll shut up, but I think that's a key.
Okay, thank you. I will focus on that and we'll make sure we get the word out.
Any other comments for Andy on next steps?
Well, to back up this is Shirley Mata. Workforce training, that's been my key thing since I've gotten on this committee. I want to make sure that all the jobs are union if possible. If not, they need to be jobs that can be living wages. And whatever you need from me to help get that done, or what conversations, I'm there.
That sounds good. Thank you, Shirley. Any other thoughts or discussion?
This is just to put on our radar for, the Public Service Commission, but the next MIA case will be opening before the end of the year. And so for those of you who don't know, that's the Missouri Energy Efficiency Investment Act, but there will probably be, I think it's important for us to reiterate, the climate plan's goals and what we would like to see out of those programs in terms of particularly, addressing energy poverty and the energy burden and utility shutoffs. So I just wanted to flag that as coming down the line, probably before we know it.
Thanks, Beth. And Andy, in addition to the positions you're all looking to fill, is the city attorney's office still moving ahead with an additional resource for helping with some of these public service commission?
Yeah, so we've got funding in our budget. We've talked with the law department. They're going to take probably the lead on putting that out to get another attorney that will be available to us to do these filings. And we've got the funding to kind of work with our law department to make that happen. So, yeah.
If I could speak again, there's a longstanding law firm here in town that's done this for years. Finnegan is the one name, Andy, I can send you but I mean, their lead guy has been appearing before the Public Service Commission and frankly winning cases clear back into the certainly 70s and 80s.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure we can bring in-house the kind of experience that we could get with contracting with a firm like that, assuming they're still, I know he's still active because I looked him up the other day, but I don't know about how well he's training the younger people, etc. But it's hard to get an in-house attorney that has that kind of expertise.
Yeah, no, and I think the point was just to have somebody on contract available to do this for us when necessary.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, because I guess the city did have somebody on contract to do this before, and apparently that contract wasn't renewed, or I'm not sure how far back that went when that was no longer there. So.
Yeah, at some point we just quit doing that. The county went on and did it a little longer. We did it through 2006 when I left, but I don't think either the city or the county has really bothered to interject themselves into any of these rate cases since 2006 or before. So.
Yep. So it'll be our intention to have somebody on contract available to do that for us. Yep.
Great. Any other discussion? Okay. Well, that kind of ties in nicely to our next agenda topic, which is the Evergy Special Contemporary Topics filing with the Public Service Commission, which we were made aware a little while ago had a September 15th deadline. So this was an opportunity to engage at the Public Service Commission that came on sort of unfortunately right on the heels of the plan passing, I guess for good or bad. Good because we were able to file, but bad because everyone was exhausted, I think, stretched thin, and we didn't quite have this resource yet in the legal department. So I also want to thank Andy and Laura for all their work in getting comments filed with the law department last week and meeting the September 15th deadline. And my understanding of this particular filing is that it's not a rate case and it's not the integrated resource plan, but it's something called Special Contemporary Topics. But it was an opportunity to request that Evergy model certain scenarios that align with our climate plan. So that was the meat of the request and the comments was that Evergy, as they're preparing for their upcoming next plan, consider our climate plan and climate goals and model some scenarios that align with those. So I'm thrilled that the city was able to meet that deadline. And Andy, or Laura, I don't know if you want to say anything else about that, but
I would just say, we appreciated, obviously the steering committee and Robin, you got to kind of give us a leg up there, or a step up on that one. Just the document you provided to get that conversation started made it much easier for us, being that, as you know, we've got plenty of other things keeping us busy here. So that was a good start. Great teamwork on that. So I'll just mention that at the forefront. It was not just the city. It was definitely a group effort for everybody to get that done. And other than that, I'll turn it over to Laura if she has any comments, because she was the one that had to work with law department directly to make sure that got done.
No, I think you guys pretty much covered everything.
And
Great. So
I would just say the process there is, so the city submitted it, other folks submitted it. Then the commission actually looks at the list of everything that is submitted, and then they provide an order to us on what we need to include in our next IRP modeling. So it's it now kind of goes back to in the commission's hands, asking us what to model for the next round. A number of the items are already things that we normally would model or that we are modeling, but it's helpful to have the input. So thank you.
thank you, Ellen. So stay tuned as that moves ahead, but that's exciting. So already implementing our climate plan or new strategies in our climate plan. All right. The next item on our agenda is the Urban Heat Island Fund. And that's also something that we heard about through the Public Service Commission. Beth, I think you know more than I do about that. Would you be able to speak to that?
Yes, so bear with me here as I'm trying to recall from memory, but essentially the gist is that there is funding available for Kansas City to be involved in studying the urban heat island effects, as well as solutions for addressing the urban heat islands. Jeff Mark was the one who made us aware of this opportunity. And it sounds like they are, for the most part, looking for collaborators. There has already been funding established, or it's already been established that there will be a stakeholder process to work on the urban heat islands. And they are looking for collaborators as well as people who are good at, grant writing and fundraising and things of that nature. I don't see Kristen on my screen, but I'm like looking at her or for her, because this is something that I know Bridging the Gap is really familiar with. But it's this, phenomenon that places the urban areas, particularly the urban areas, those areas without trees, experience much higher temperatures and also are, have higher rates of inefficiency as well. So all of those things compound with each other. And Kansas City is one of the cities that has where this issue is more pronounced. And so I'm sorry if that isn't very specific, but it's something that came up in conversations with Jeff Mark. And so I wanted to see if there was any interest in the steering committee being a part of that stakeholder process.
I'm here, Beth, by the way.
Oh, hi.
Could you tell us, first of all, what kind of scale of funding is available? Are we talking about, a modest couple $1,000s? Is there, and where the funding actually came from originally? Did you say that?
So no, that's a good question. I believe it's more than a modest couple of thousand of dollars. And I believe it's a Department of Energy program. But I would have to look at the slides that Jeff Mark sent to us, and I can send those to the committee as well.
I'd be very interested in seeing that. We are already we work with heat island effect maps that were gathered by UMKC with and bridging the gap to the volunteer part of it last summer on a hot day in July. And we've been working for now over a year with those maps to try and figure out where we can plant to ameliorate the effect. So yeah, I'd love to go further with that. So love to see that contact information.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm gonna hop in.
Thank you.
I know I saw Andy's hand raised, but will you send that to the entire committee, Beth? Just because I'm having a hard time concentrating because of how hot it is.
Yes, I will send it to the entire committee, and that slideshow will also have some more concrete information in it as well.
Andy, I see your hand up, and I forgot to ask for a volunteer earlier. If somebody could help me monitor the chat and the raised hands, but that would be helpful.
And I can do that for you if you like. Can I go?
Okay. Yes. Sorry.
No, I'll let you know if there's hands. But Beth, do you know, is that a current opportunity? Because what was interesting is it sounded a lot like the initiative that was going on right before COVID occurred between a lot of stakeholders, UMKC and Evergy, where they were meeting over heat island effect, and UMKC was presenting some of their research, and they were supposed to talk about strategies on heat island effect. Was that a separate effort, would you know, than what this is? Is this a new attempt or a kind of, because once COVID hit, it just kind of fell apart, and I don't know what happened.
If it is the Department of Energy, Andy, it's different than the initiative that you just described, where we worked with UMKC, because that was NOAA initiated.
No, I know. Yeah. No, I was aware of the NOAA CAPA study.
Okay.
I'm going back even further than that. Just before COVID, there was, Evergy hosted a meeting or two, and it was all on Heat Island, and it was with various other stakeholders to kind of discuss Heat Island and strategies and actions. So I'm just I didn't look at what you provided in any detail, if that was brand new funding we're talking about, or was this a carryover from something that already started?
I don't know for sure, but I think it might be a carryover, because I know that, they mentioned that there's this existing stakeholder group and stakeholder process. And, obviously Evergy is one of the stakeholders who's involved. So they did mention that Evergy was involved in the process. Ellen might know the answer to that too.
Okay.
But I think it was an outcome of one of the Public Service Commission decisions.
All right.
Yeah, I can follow up. I mean, a person in our Natalie Gray works on heat island type stuff, but I don't know any specifics around it.
I don't see, I also had a community member from the Crossroads, David Johnson, I'm sure many of you know, reach out when he saw that on our agenda and was just interested in, what that could possibly bring to neighborhoods like the Crossroads, which are, one of the urban heat island, or one of the most affected by urban heat island, so downtown. So it sounds like there's some interest from the community as well. So Beth, is there a next step?
So the next step, I think, would be sending the committee the information that Jeff Mark sent me. And if there's appetite for it, maybe we should consider having Jeff Mark present at, an upcoming meeting, so we can further educate ourselves on what the process is and how we can engage. Does that sound good with everyone?
Yeah, we could see if he's able to come to our next meeting, perhaps. Great. Any other discussion before we move on? Did I miss any hands up? No. Okay. Then I'll reach, well, or maybe you could reach out to Jeff and see if he's available, if that's all right. We'll get him on our agenda. Then our next agenda topic is the Spire franchise agreement, which we just wanted to add to the agenda today, since this is something that happens once every 10 years or so. I think there's just some interest in the committee, from the committee, to learn more about what's in the agreement, and perhaps talk with Public Works, who's been working on the franchise agreement. I think it's been held to October, so there might be a little time. So it's really just on the agenda today, not to really discuss the agreement, but just to raise awareness to the committee that we'd like to, there are members of the committee who would like to learn more about that process. So if anyone's interested in participating in that meeting, let me know. There's
Looks like
nothing
Bridget
set
has
up
her
yet,
hand up.
but oh, go ahead, Bridget.
Sorry. I would love to be involved. So does Spire, their electric or their franchise agreement, does that, how regularly does that come up for the city?
I don't know,
It shows
but
10 years on
it's a
this.
10-year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's not going to come up again for another 10 years. That's part of what we want to find out, I guess.
Okay, great. Yeah, just keep me in the loop.
Okay.
Yeah, the agreement is available on the city clerk's page if you want to look at the agreement. It's about 22 pages.
Okay.
Actually,
go
I'll
ahead,
post.
Andy.
I was just going to say, it's actually, if you want to look it up, it's the ordinance is 220621. So if you go to the clerk's page, just search 220621 and you should find the documents available there.
All right, thank you. Then next up, we have legislative priorities, because it's already the time of year to be thinking about, well, to be getting any legislative priorities we would like to see the city include, from a climate perspective, getting them to the people who make that list. So Andy and Laura and I spoke a little bit about this, and it sounds like we have time to, as a committee, to come up with some that we then would bring to our next committee meeting and vote on as a committee. So I guess that's what I propose is, if there's interest in having, maybe one meeting, a subcommittee meeting between now and next meeting to discuss. I know in the climate plan, we list rent control and clean energy as potential legislative priorities for the city. But I don't think we have to be limited to just that. So so I guess that's what I was going to suggest, is that anyone interested who would like to help us come up with a short list of priorities, probably a pretty short list because they don't include a lot of priorities each year. I guess let me know if you'd like to be included in that, and we'll get something set up in the next week or two.
Robin, I would be interested in that.
All right.
I would also. Shirley.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Same, Robin. Ellen, I'm interested.
All right. And if we get so much interest that we are going to exceed quorum, we'll have to figure out how to handle it so that we don't exceed quorum, but of course, everyone's welcome to weigh in. So I'll see how many I get, and we'll figure it out from there. So. Okay, great. All right, so I'll be in touch to set that up. Unless anyone else would like to take the lead. But if so, you can drop it in the chat. But okay. Moving along, we have I think what we're intending to be just a regular place on our agenda to discuss any upcoming grant opportunities. So since they seem to be coming up more and more often. Andy, I don't know if there's any that you or Laura wanted to highlight, or if this was just supposed to be an open forum for anyone to share any opportunities they know of. But
yeah, no, I think this was just, I think we were thinking this would be like a recurring topic on the agenda going forward. I certainly appreciate people reaching out and sending us those grant opportunities. But besides that, I think what we would like to see more of, and this is what we kind of struggle with at times, is when these grant opportunities become available. Sometimes we don't have a project readily in our mind what it is. So I think what we're looking for is maybe the steering committee maybe take some time in their agenda to, if there's a grant opportunity that you see that there's interest in it, maybe help formulate who the partners might be, who takes the lead, how can the city support, something a little bit more concrete like that might be useful for us. Because like I said, with the staffing that we've got enough on our plate. We're happy to support anybody who wants to go for a grant where the city needs to be a partner. But if the steering committee can step up here and maybe take a role in that as well, that just takes more off of our shoulders, I guess is the ask there. So, Laura?
Yeah, I just want to add, especially if you guys, even if you don't necessarily want to take the lead on running with it, because I know I get a lot of, hey, look at this grant, but I don't know what you all are thinking, or the community members that are sending it to me are thinking that they want to do with that grant. So it would be great if somebody sends one, it's like, what I really would like the city to do is this, and maybe we can kind of brainstorm it together as a team. So it's not just one of us trying to figure out the whole process, kind of do it together.
There is one that we're looking at right now at BTG that is workforce development related. It's due October 29th. It's ARPA dollars that are coming through the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. But I think it may prove to be, it requires a lot of partners. And I think it's going to be a fairly complicated one to pull off. But our notion of it is that there's going to be a real need for green positions, green careers related to things like forestry, energy efficiency, that kind of thing that we're already short-handed. The Missouri Department of Conservation, for example, has had, I don't know, I think like 13 forester positions open this past year that they couldn't fill. And so I'm not sure where we're going to end up with this grant, but I'll just put it out there as an example of a grant that is related to being able to fulfill our climate change goals.
Kristen, have you worked with Clyde at FEC?
I know Clyde, yes.
I mean, he'd be a great partner. They write a lot of those grants. You should contact him.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
He or Shelley Penn or Clyde, either one, but I'm sure that they would be more than happy to partner with you.
Right, and if anybody else on the call has other ideas, do let me know. And like I say, Ellen, I don't know that we're going to do this. It's just we're looking at it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea to have, regular conversations about the funding opportunities. I have a couple of thoughts, and one of those is, sometimes these funding opportunities have a quicker turnaround than our meeting frequency will really allow us to, plan for. So I'm wondering if, there's some type of way that we can communicate in a shared document, like a Google document, and keep track of all of the grants. If maybe, not to suggest another subcommittee, but if maybe there is a grant committee that would be willing to, really help take some of the pressure off of the city so that we can, one, have a record of all of the opportunities that we're thinking about, but also so we can flag some things if they are, if there's going to be a quick turnaround. And then the other comment along with that is I'm wondering if the same should be, if the same type of exercise should be used for, some of the coalitions that are coming up as well, and some of the other frameworks and resources that are coming up. So, we talked about the Midwest Building Coalition. I know I myself missed a really important deadline for the bipartisan infrastructure weatherization assistance funds, which is, really important for us to be engaged in. But it got me thinking that, maybe there is a need for us to, have some sort of committee that's flagging this and kind of taking the pressure off of the city's hands. And, just being a little bit more tight and organized instead of spamming Laura and Andy's inbox with, no context funding opportunities.
I think that's a good suggestion, Beth. Is that something you'd want to take the lead on?
Sure, I will give it a whirl. And if you're interested in being on the grants committee, let me know. And until we get the rest of the details ironed out with the Environmental Justice Advisory Committee and the community involvement, maybe we can also include community members who've been really vocal about these opportunities too.
Beth, if you're okay with it, that Google Drive that we set up to review the plan with the CPSC folder, I can go ahead and just drop a grants folder in there and give you all y'all access. Going Southern today, I don't know why. All y'all.
Sounds great.
Great. Okay. Next on our agenda is time for public comment. So I want to invite anyone from the community who has anything to say about anything we discussed today or any other climate related topics. Go ahead and raise your hand, and I see Kristen has her hand, but Kristen,
I think I might have frozen there for a second.
Oh,
I'm going to start singing "Let It Go" or something pretty soon here. I just wanted to mention that you and I had talked about this, Robin, during the last couple of weeks. I think there is a little bit of a need to do some public education about how the plan actually turned out. We're hearing some questions from various organizations, one of which is the Kansas City Industrial Council, and they've asked for a presentation about the climate protection plan. And I know that there will be other groups that would be interested in what is it, what does it mean for our part of the Kansas City economy, et cetera. And I think we probably are going to need some kind of a boiled down, distilled version of the plan that really gets down to the nuts and bolts. And I'm happy to help with that distillation process. In the case of the Kansas City Industrial Council, I feel like it would probably be good to have either Laura or Andy with me to make sure that I don't let my mouth run away with me in some way. So stay tuned for that, because I know we're going to get an invitation to appear there.
Sure. And Kristen, I wasn't sure, maybe you were in transition, but that was part of our initial part of what we're working on is putting together kind of a slide deck that we can use for presentations going
Okay,
forward.
I did not hear that. Thank you.
No, that's fine. With the intention that, Laura and myself will be more than happy to take the lead on presentations when requested. But in full acknowledgement, if there's a time when the steering committee representative or member has an opportunity to represent the plan, by all means, you would be able to take whatever slides you want or what from that slide deck. But I agree. I think we need to have standard talking points to what the plan is about and how we represent it. So we'll start on that slide deck internally here, and we'll share it with the committee here and try to make it the best possible master template presentation we can have for those very occasions.
Thank you, Andy. I'm sorry I didn't hear that.
Oh, no, that's fine. Kelly, I think, was first.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks, guys. Let me get on video here. Yeah, so thanks for, this is very exciting. I'm glad to hear all of the conversations about the implementation. Just in general, thank you for all your work. Awesome job. And now the real work begins for the rest of us, right? The couple things I wanted to mention beyond that, and my thanks to Andy for already emphasizing two of the items pretty heavily that I wanted to bring up. So the Share the Sun initiative of Solarize KC is intended to provide solar systems to income qualified applicants. Its reach and effectiveness is going to be based on the amount of donations received through grants and foundations, but also through individual donors. MEC is Metropolitan Energy Center is serving as a fiscal agent to collect those individual donations for the initiative. And with permission of the committee, I'd like to share the donation link to members and attendees. It's not yet available publicly on the Solar Crowdsource webpage, but it should be up there soon. Item number 2, if the CPSC creates subcommittees, it would be great if you're allowed for you to invite non-committee members to participate in those subcommittees, maybe through a public input process. And then item number 3, this was the kind of the reason why I wanted to speak up today, really, is that I just wanted to emphasize, I don't need to remind you anymore, that the ordinance to adopt the 2021 Energy Code is still not passed. Per a communication from Councilwoman Boo, the ordinance 220364 is being held in the Neighborhood Planning and Development Committee and will be heard again on Wednesday, September 28th. I assume that the CPSC has already sent in a letter of support to the Council's Neighborhood Committee, urging the committee to advance and do pass the proposed 21 IUCC with strengthening amendments. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to remind your members and the meeting attendees that we should all stay vigilant and involved with this ordinance until it passes the committee. Because until it does, the residential code section and the strengthening amendments proposed are both in jeopardy of being watered down to current levels. And the residential code in particular can have serious negative impacts on the health and safety of Kansas City's large base of renters. Every new building that is built to a less than possible specifications is yet another building that will need to be retrofitted in the future after having probably years of impact on occupant health, wealth, comfort, and safety. And there are quite a few new affordable housing projects that are being proposed and contemplated that could very well be affected by a watered down code. So that was a statement I wanted to make, and I appreciate you giving me time to talk about that today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly. Next, go ahead.
Go ahead, Adam.
My turn? Cool, thanks. First of all, Kelly Gilbert, you rock. Everything you just said is one I 1000% agree with. So thank you very much for every word that just came out of your mouth. 100% agree. Also just wanted to say, I think like the random person in Kansas City knows things like, I don't know, the World Cup is coming in 2026. They might know about the solar project at the airport, maybe, I don't know. But like, just in my like conversation with people in the last month, like people don't know that we have a climate protection resiliency plan. I think that's huge. This is awesome. We should be shouting this from every hilltop. So I don't know if there's any way to like advertise like just the fact that it exists, that we did this. I saw Sierra Club put out a little news release, which is cool. Like by and large, I think people don't know about it. So just getting the word out there, like, hey, we have a climate protection resiliency plan. I think is something that we could focus a little bit on and just celebrate that fact. That's number one. Number two is just talking about legislative priorities. I just think they have to be centered. This is really broad, and I get this. The scope of this is very large. But one, just clean energy, clean energy, clean energy. How do we electrify everything? Andy talked about this electrification grant program for lawnmowers and leaf blowers. I think it's a fantastic idea. But I think our mind always has to be there. How do we expand that to vehicles? How do we expand that to stovetops? How do we expand that to heat pumps? How do we expand that to generation on rooftops? Like everything has to be electrified, and that has to be, I think, our focus every legislative session going forward is how can we inch our way towards that fully electrified reality. And then number two, in terms of like general things to be gearing legislative priorities toward, is job creation. I know a lot of that has to happen at the federal level, has to happen at the state level, but also the city level. How can we leverage anything we have towards job creation? Like talking about Spire, like the whole idea is like we can't burn fossil fuels anymore. Spire's entire business is fossil fuels. So the only way that you ever shift, sorry for the noise going on, only way you shift that is to create jobs that everyone that works for Spire can then shift to a green job, a sustainable job. So electrification jobs just have to be, I think, at the foundation of every legislative push. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Adam. We've got time for any other comments if anyone has any. I don't see any other hands up at the time right now, unless there's anyone on the phone. I see we have a few people on the phone. If anybody would like to say anything, you can just take yourself off mute. All right, I don't see any other hands up. So,
Robin?
Yes.
I was waiting to give the public a chance to go, but I wanted to kind of respond to the building codes that's going through committee next week. Since we're all here, I thought it might be useful to see if anyone would be available to, show up and give testimony on behalf of the Climate Protection Steering Committee, if that's kosher under our responsibilities as committee. I've showed up in the past and I've just, voiced my support as a constituent and have noted that I'm on the Climate Protection Steering Committee, but my, comments were not reflective necessarily of the committee. But since we did vote to support these codes, and since we're here and have an opportunity to give, another testimony, I thought maybe we can tighten up those loose ends before we go, since we have some extra time.
Yeah, did you just want to make sure that someone could attend?
Yes.
Get that.
And that it's okay for us to say that we're, giving these remarks on behalf of the committee, but if we're not allowed to.
I think my understanding is since we voted as a committee to send that letter a while back, that it's okay to speak. So it's as long as the committee has voted on it.
Okay. So the hearing, can someone remind us all when the hearing is going to take place?
So currently the 28th, and NPD is typically at 1:30 so that'd be the Wednesday, next Wednesday.
And that's at 1:30, right?
Right. Yep. And I'll usually Tuesday mornings, we will get a notice, typically a feel from the committee staff folks that staff those committees on whether it could be held or where it might go from there. So if for some reason I get anything that says it might be held further, I will I can shoot out an email to whoever this, I could send it to the whole steering committee for that matter. It kind of saves people a trip to City Hall if they don't have to be down here.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility of giving testimony virtually, I assume.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
I hesitate to volunteer myself because I have another commitment at 3, and based on how some of those meetings go, they can last longer than an hour and a half. So kind of opening it up to see if anyone else would be available from the committee.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm in the same boat. I have a standing commitment around 2:15, 2:30. So, any other volunteers? We could ask if there aren't any today. Perhaps we could follow up with Michael or Tom. I don't think Tom ever joined, did he?
Yeah,
Oh, no, there he is. There he is. I'm sorry, Tom. But yes,
I have a conflict at that time too, Robin. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I can check my availability. If I have some time, I might be able to do that.
Great.
Great.
I can plan on going virtually until 3. Bo, maybe you and I can coordinate and just both plan on being on standby, and perhaps the consolation would be for us to send, just re-up our letter, because I think we probably sent that months ago. So, perhaps we at least at minimum, send our letter again. And if Bo and I are able to, reiterate our support next week, then great.
I think, sorry, I think it's important to resend our letter anyways, just because, we now do have this plan in place. So I think at the very minimum, sending the letter is a great idea.
I can bottom line this, Robin.
You can what?
I can bottom line this.
Okay.
With everyone.
Okay. Do you, I guess I could take the lead on sending the letter back out to the committee. I'm not sure that it even went to this committee. Well, I think it went to everyone. I'll just make sure it goes to the whole council. Okay. Okay. Any other business that any committee members or Laura and Andy would like to bring up before we adjourn? Or any, I'll go ahead and throw out if anyone has any future agenda topics, please let me know. And that includes, community members, if there's certain topics you'd like us to discuss. I guess the best way to do that would be to send to OEQ, and they can let us know. So. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. So maybe we'll give everyone a few minutes back today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, well, thanks everyone. Meeting's adjourned. See you next month.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.